Hello lovely people, Orio here. So recently I was watching some top level Zero Suit Samus VODs when something in this game between Mars and Dark Wizzy caught my attention.
I was gonna say the back throw, Mark's getting a little aggressive right there, it's gonna cost him a...
Did you catch it? Let's have another look. At 38%, Mars strings a neutral air, a slightly delayed forward air, and fast falls before hitting Dark Wizzy with a full hop back air. After doing a little digging and testing, I confirmed this wasn't a true combo, and this is hardly mind-blowing ZSS tech yet, I know, bear with me. I started playing around with the setup anyway, and I noticed that delaying the forward air a little more sometimes allowed me to make this a true combo. I then wondered whether it was possible to combo into a flip kick spike after the forward air. It's been known for a long time that it's possible to connect both hits of forward air immediately before landing and true combo into a flip kick. Until now, however, it has been generally accepted that landing fair 1 and 2 close to the ground required a precursory setup such as a charged paralyzer. Hitting both hits of forward air immediately before landing in neutral is also extremely difficult and risky, since it requires a long stall in the air and is at least -7 on shield. Zero Suit Samus' neutral air, on the other hand, is one of the most powerful combo starters in Smash Ultimate. Being highly disjointed and safe on shield, it also has high hit stun and launches the opponent at an angle that allows for high damaging and sometimes lethal follow-ups, including her notorious neutral air to flip kick combo. Combo starting aerials in Smash Ultimate are typically designed to have very high frame advantage on hit when hitting the opponent immediately before landing, allowing for either grounded or rising aerial follow-ups. To this end, they tend to have low landing lag, but high startup and aerial cooldown. This usually makes it very difficult or impossible to link two landing aerials together, and even if you can, a further follow-up is usually impossible. There are notable exceptions, of course. Zero Suit Samus' neutral air fits this description. It has a high startup of 10 frames, a very high cooldown of 40 frames, but extremely low landing lag of 6 frames. However, ZSS's neutral air has such high hit stun, and ZSS herself such high full speed, that it is in fact possible for her to link multiple landing aerials together. This even allows ZSS to combo landing neutral air into another neutral air and a flip kick. See Equinox's video in the description for more about this. This setup comes with a few limitations though. Firstly, it is quite difficult to execute, with the timing of the second neutral air often needing to be frame perfect. For example, on Marth, the second neutral air needs to be input on frame 17, and both neutral airs need to be spaced for all but the worst DI, and the flip kick often has to be a frame perfect momentum cancelled flip kick. The launch angle of neutral air is also greatly affected by positioning and the opponent's DI, making it difficult and often impossible to connect the flip kick spike. And finally, if the entire combo fails, the damage done to the opponent tops out at only 16%, and their position on stage is not particularly bad. When looking into this string by Mars, I wondered whether it was possible to do something similar with ZSS's forward air. Neutral air to forward air at low percentages is about as bread and butter as ZSS combos get. At very low percentages, it is possible to extend this bread and butter setup by including a fast fall after the forward air, the idea being that ZSS lands much sooner after connecting the second hit of forward air, allowing for some quick follow-ups. This will not work at even slightly higher percentages because the forward air sends the opponent too far away to follow up with a fast move, and ZSS cannot reach her opponent in time. An alternative is to slightly delay the forward air and fast fall either immediately before or after the forward air connects. This presents some problems though. Firstly, there is barely enough time during the hit stun of neutral air to start a fast fall before hitting the opponent with forward air. Secondly, if ZSS initiates the fast fall at any time before the first hit of forward air connects, the second hit of forward air will never come out before ZSS hits the ground, so the opponent will only be hit by the first hit of forward air, which carries far less hit stun and only allows for unnecessarily difficult but weak follow-ups at these percentages. Even if you successfully time the simultaneous fair 1 and fast fall, against most characters ZSS will fall too far past them for the fair 2 to connect. This presents a catch-22 because ideally you want to land as soon as possible after hitting the second hit of forward air to secure a follow-up. Going for a rising forward air and fast falling after Fair 2 connects means ZSS takes too long to land and hit the opponent again before they can escape. Delaying the forward air slightly and fast falling beforehand causes the Fair 2 to miss, and Fair 1 does not have enough hit stun to secure a powerful follow-up. A third possibility is to delay the forward air as long as possible before the opponent can escape, and fast fall after the Fair 2 connects. But ZSS still takes too long to land to have enough time to follow up with anything powerful. This is a real shame, because landing both hits of forward air close to the ground is an extremely powerful setup that can lead into very strong follow-ups, and even KOs. It can even true combo into a flip kick spike from the centre of the stage, which is very difficult for most characters to DI, and even impossible for some. The root of the problem is that ZSS cannot hit the opponent with both hits of forward air close to the ground under normal circumstances. When comboing from a neutral air, she cannot fast fall before the forward air because it causes the Fair 2 to miss, and she also cannot delay the forward air long enough to hit the forward air close enough to the ground to follow up. But forward air is a 2-hit move. What happens if Zero Suit Samus fast falls between the 2 hits? It turns out, ZSS can reliably combo her neutral air into both hits of forward air, fast falling between the hits so that she lands almost instantly after connecting the second hit of forward air, allowing for low percentage follow-ups more powerful than anything yet seen, including a kill confirm from extremely low percentage from the other side of the stage that tops all of Zero Suit Samus' other punishes. This is not only possible against the majority of the cast, but easy with practice. We're going to get seriously into the nitty-gritty with the frame data here, since it's crucial to understanding how this setup works, and how to practice it. If you're not bothered about this, the too long didn't read is to land the Nair as close and late as possible, do a short hop delayed Fair, and fast fall as soon as possible after Fair 1. Still with me? Alright, strap in. Firstly, the neutral air. For most of this video, we will be assuming that ZSS manages to connect a fresh short hop neutral air the frame before she lands, with no rage. This is a staple of ZSS's neutral game, and quite easy with practice. Sometimes of course you may be a few frames early, but as we shall see later, this doesn't actually make much difference to the setup. The setup is much easier to execute when hitting the opponent with an unspaced neutral air, though it is still possible with a spaced neutral air if the opponent does not DI directly away. More on this later, but for now we will assume the neutral air is unspaced. Zero Suit Samus' short hop duration is 38 frames, meaning she is in the air for precisely 38 frames after her 3-frame jump squat and before she lands. A fast fall can be initiated at any time after the apex of a jump, which is exactly halfway through in terms of frames, so ZSS can initiate her fast fall on the 20th frame after leaving the ground. For the sake of reference, I'm going to include the 3 frames of jump squat when counting frames from now on, especially because this is more relevant when it comes to practicing your timing, so ZSS can initiate her fast fall on the 23rd frame after the start of the short hop. Initiating a fast fall bypasses the usual rules of gravity in Smash, and instead instantly puts the character at their maximum fall speed. This means the time it takes the character to hit the ground after initiating a fast fall, either early or late, varies only slightly. For example, if ZSS initiates a fast fall as early as she can, on frame 23 of her short hop, it takes her exactly 9 frames to hit the ground. If she initiates a fast fall 5 frames later, on frame 28 of her short hop, it still takes her exactly 9 frames to hit the ground. Only if she initiates the fast fall on frame 29 or later does this airborne duration shorten to 8 frames. When fast falling immediately after the first hit of forward air, this air time before ZSS hits the ground after a fast fall is coincidentally just barely enough time after the first hit of her forward air for the second hit of forward air to connect 7 frames later. For now, let's assume we initiate the fast fall the frame after connecting with the first hit of forward air on frame 6 of its animation. Let's call this hit Fair 1 from now on. In order to fast fall immediately after Fair 1, the hit must connect no earlier than frame 22 of the short hop, meaning the earliest you can input the forward air is frame 17 of the short hop. This means that after short hopping towards the opponent, we must delay the forward air for at least 16 frames to get this setup. This will take some practice for those used to spamming approaching short hop aerials. ZSS can input the forward air as late as frame 25 of her short hop, and still connect with the second hit of forward air the frame before landing, so frame 25 is the upper limit for inputting the forward air. So, we've established a lower limit of frame 17 and an upper limit of frame 25 for inputting the forward air, but of course, the neutral air beforehand doesn't have unlimited hit stun, so there will also be an upper limit for the latest we can start the forward air before the opponent can act, and this setup will only work if there is some overlap between these. The neutral air needs to have enough hit stun for the opponent to be unable to act until after ZSS has landed with landing lag, 6 frames, short hop forward for 16 frames, and finish the startup of her forward air, 6 frames. So, the number we're looking for is 6 plus 16 plus 6 equals 28 frames of hit stun.
Are you writing this down, class?
The lighter the character, the more frames of hit stun they will have at the same percentage. So the lightest character, Pichu, will take 28 frames of hit stun at 14%. And the heaviest character, Bowser, will take 28 frames of hit stun at 23%, although they will almost always hit the ground with landing lag before their hit stun is over, making it take slightly longer for them to shield. But such low percentages are actually not all that relevant to the setup, since most characters will fall to the ground too quickly for you to catch them with the forward air, and at these percentages there are more effective setups anyway, such as the neutral air to up smash. For the purpose of most of these demonstrations, the target character will be Marth, since he conveniently has a move that will escape any of these combos if they are not absolutely true combos, his frame 1 invincible up special, Dolphin Slash. At the relevant percentages for this setup, hit stun cancelling with air dodge or attack has no effect on the frame advantage. For example, when hitting Marth at 50% with both hits of forward air, he can start both his air dodge and up special on frame 36 after being launched. The combo meter actually works for this entire setup, so good news. If the combo meter says it's true, even on characters with frame 1 escape options. The setup really comes into its own from about 30% onwards, depending on the character. Against Marth at 31%, the neutral air has 32 frames of hit stun, allowing ZSS to start the forward air as late as frame 21 of her short hop. This therefore gives a window of 5 frames between 17 and 21 where she can start the forward air, making this part of the setup extremely lenient. This brings us to the most crucial part of the setup, the fast fall. Whether or not this setup will work on a character is entirely dependent on whether ZSS can still connect the second hit of forward air following an immediate fast fall after the first hit. This depends on a number of factors, such as the character's gravity value and fall speed, but more important than anything is the character's model and animation during the knockback from Fair 1. For example, this setup works on Palutena because during her hit stun animation she remains largely upright, and ZSS can hit the bottom of her character model with the second hit of forward air. But this doesn't work on Ken despite his near identical gravity, fall speed and size, because his animation places his character model too high to be caught by the second hit of forward air. The great news for Zero Suit Samus players is that this basic setup works on a majority of the cast, including some very relevant matchups for her. As a general rule, the setup works on characters with higher gravity values and fall speeds, but there are notable exceptions. The exact circumstances of the setup can have a slight effect on this. Exactly how you space the neutral air, the forward air, the opponent's DI of the neutral air, their possible SDI on the fair one, etc. It is possible in extremely rare scenarios for this setup to work on characters it usually doesn't, and vice versa, but this works as a very solid general rule. In particular, the fair one does not send an airborne opponent into tumble until 65%, or 41% with maximum rage, so this first hit cannot be DI'd at all at the relevant percentages, so however your opponent moves will be almost entirely predetermined by your position when you hit them with fair 1, and this position is lenient enough that in all my testing it never made any discernible difference. Now remember, the point of this fast fall is to hit the ground as soon as possible after connecting the second hit of forward air, but how soon do you actually need to hit the ground? The first active frame of flip kick after the start of flip jump is frame 22. Beginning this setup at 27% on Marth, the second hit of forward air has 33 frames of hit stun. Forward air has 10 frames of landing lag, so this leaves 23 frames to spare for a follow-up. This means that ZSS can be airborne for only one additional frame after connecting the second hit of forward air and still confirm into the flip kick. Remember that initiating the fastfall at any time between frame 23 and 28 inclusive takes ZSS exactly 9 frames to hit the ground, so any delay in initiating the fastfall will result in the same delay between the second hit of forward air and landing, meaning at this percentage, the fastfall must begin the frame after hitting fair 1. Now I bet this has set off some alarm bells. Only one frame, so this part has to be frame perfect. Well, not exactly. Like many other actions in Smash, the fastfall can be buffered, meaning you can input the action slightly early and it will start as soon as the current action has finished. The standard buffer window in Smash is 9 frames, meaning you can input the next action up to 9 frames early, and it will start as soon as the current action is over. For example, you can input a jump up to 9 frames before ZSS's up air is over, and she will double jump the frame after her up air ends. The buffer for fastfall is a little different, however. Firstly, the buffer window for fastfall is only 3 frames instead of 9, meaning you can only input the fastfall up to a maximum of 3 frames early. Secondly, fastfall cannot be hold buffered, meaning that it must be inputted during this window. However, for our purposes here, this extra 3 frames makes a huge difference, since it increases the window for ZSS to input the fastfall from 1 frame to 4. The first hit of ZSS's forward air has exactly 8 frames of hit lag. We can input the fastfall during the final 3 frames, or on the exact frame after hit lag finishes. Typically, in 60 frames per second fighting games, any timing within at least 3 frames truly is easy with practice. In addition, you can use C-stick fastfalling to make this even easier. I recommend Meta of Smash's video here. After inputting the fastfall and connecting the second hit of forward air, all that is left to do is buffer a down special for the flip jump kick. This part is extremely easy and can even be done as a held buffer from the fastfall input. Spacing, or missing the timing of the starting neutral air, will merely subtract from the first window to input the forward air, frame by frame. For example, if you connect with the neutral air 3 frames early, so 4 frames before landing instead of 1, the window to input the forward air shrinks from 5 frames to 2, but everything else about the setup is unchanged and still works. Spacing the starting neutral air may also mean that you need to dash forward slightly before the short hop forward air in order for it to connect, and this lenient 5-frame window gives you enough time to do so. Here I connect with a fully spaced neutral air the frame before landing, and dash forward for 2 frames before the short hop, then input the forward air on the 18th frame of the short hop, right in the middle of the 3-frame window. Of course, this is all assuming that you want the combo meter to show the combo as true, and the target character has a frame 1 escape option like Marth, but this is usually not the case. For example, Palutena's fastest escape is her air dodge, which begins intangibility on frame 3, meaning you have 2 additional frames to input the forward air. Effectively, at this percentage, the window to input the forward air increases from 5 frames to 7, making this very easy. In this clip, I connect with the neutral air 1 frame too early and input the forward air on frame 22. Palutena begins her air dodge 1 frame before the forward air connects, but the intangibility does not start in time for her to avoid the rest of the combo, making this whole combo guaranteed, despite what the combo meter says. Remember that ZSS can input the forward air as late as frame 25 of her short hop, and still connect with the second hit of the forward air the frame before landing, but this is so late that it's almost beyond relevance for most of the cast, as almost every character has an escape option before this point, at the percentages where the setup will still connect. It is still relevant for super heavies such as Bowser, making this an extremely easy 8-frame window on him at 49% and above. As hinted at previously, there are some variations on the timing of this setup. These variations will work on every character that the universal timing discussed up to this point will work on, which in fact makes the frame windows to input the neutral air, forward air and fastfall even more lenient. In addition, these variations are in fact the only way to get this setup to work on other characters, which includes most of the rest of the cast. Remember I mentioned before that the earliest ZSS can initiate her forward air and fast fall the frame after the first hit comes out is frame 17 of her short hop. It is of course possible to initiate the forward air earlier than this and still fast fall between the hits. If, for example, you initiate the forward air on frame 16 of the short hop, ZSS can fast fall 2 frames after the first hit of her forward air comes out. The problem with this, of course, is that it leaves more time between connecting Fair 2 and ZSS landing, giving her less time to connect the flip kick. For example, against Marth at 28%, starting the forward air on frame 16 of the short hop and fast falling as early as possible, ZSS takes too long to land after Fair 2 for her flip kick to connect in time. At 29%, however, Fair 2 has one more frame of hit stun, allowing ZSS to start her Fair 1 frame earlier on frame 16 and secure the whole combo. As a general rule, frame 15 is too early to work on most of the cast and still connect the flip kick. Against Marth, for instance, he needs to be at least 41% before the neutral air for the flip kick to connect in time, and at high percentages like this, the setup will often not work anyway. However, this fast fall, while delayed, can still be buffered up to 3 frames early, so it doesn't make the setup any more difficult, and effectively increases the window for inputting the forward air by another frame. This method of inputting the forward air early works on every character that the previous method does. In addition, this method allows ZSS to secure the setup on characters the previous setup does not work on. Against Joker, for example, if ZSS fast falls the frame after Fair 1 connects, she falls too far past Joker for the Fair 2 to connect. But if she fast falls 2 frames after Fair 1 connects, she just barely catches him with the Fair 2 and is able to secure the combo. Of course, you do not need to connect with the forward air early in order to delay the fast fall by 1 frame. This can also be inputted manually after a late forward air. This makes the timing of the fast fall frame perfect, but it's the only reliable way to do the setup against some super floaty characters such as Dark Samus, but it also still works on every character the basic setup does. Now I'm sure all the Smash veterans watching this have been dying to rush into the comments with "What about DI?" As previously mentioned, the opponent's DI will make little difference to the initial part of this setup, the Nair-Fair fast fall. But what about the flip kick? The majority of the cast can indeed avoid the flip kick by DIing the forward air straight down, and some characters can DI down and away. For any other DI, it is possible to follow them and hit them with the flip kick. DIing directly away is a death sentence for all but the fastest fallers. Some characters, such as Ness and Mewtwo, cannot escape the flip kick spike no matter how they DI, but they can DI up to make the flip kick spike harder to hit, but it is still always possible. On a similar note, using a staled or a full hop neutral air, or performing the setup with high rage, will of course have an effect on the percentages and frame windows, but the setup is always possible at a relevant percentage. Whilst it's fairly likely the opponent will be unaware of the correct DI to avoid this setup, or react in time, unless this video goes big, like, share and subscribe please, DI down leaves the opponent vulnerable to other powerful follow-ups. Against every character this setup works on, anything other than DI directly away will leave them open to another forward air, an attack cancelled or reverse aerial rush back air, or even a boost kick. DIing directly down will also lead into tech chases against fast fallers. For example, the only way for Sheik to avoid the flip kick after the forward air is to DI straight down or down and away, but either of these will force her to tech if she lands on stage, because she cannot jump or attack in time. Against the floatier characters, DIing up can make the flip kick much more difficult, but this leaves them wide open for more dangerous aerial follow-ups. In short, even if the opponent manages to DI correctly to avoid the flip kick, this setup still leads into unprecedentedly powerful true combos from a neutral air at this percentage. I look forward to seeing what everyone can do with this. That's all for this video, folks. If you liked this video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Discord at Orio9187, and you can follow me on Twitter at StorbsOrio. Links in the description. This video was made possible by my patrons. Extra special thanks to my top level patrons Wulfgang Keanu Ramsey, Reno Seyl, Kristof Miller, Roberto Contreras, Simon Wahlström, Jaysank, Ruben Nava, Kyle, and Jean-Christophe Archambault. If you'd like to join my Patreon family or receive coaching from me, either DM me or see my Patreon page in the description. Take care, and keep being awesome.